Hello, everybody. Before I get started on this episode, I just wanted to briefly talk about a dream I had the other night. So, I was walking around and doing daily tasks and whatnot. Then all of a sudden, the part that I can remember, it was nighttime, and I was on a populated city block. And I was walking down the street when on the corner, um, adjacent to me, there was, he appeared to be a larger black man. Now, when I say black, you guys can see my skin color, and then you can see this hoodie. It was between like a dark brown. And he started scaling this building, just climbing up, climbing up. And so I looked around for a second and I'm like, whoa, what in the, what? And he kept scaling and scaling, going to the top of this huge building. Now, when I say huge building, it wasn't a skyscraper or anything like that. Most of these buildings were average downtown when you're in a smaller town, double two-story buildings. Like you have the first floor and then the second floor, like where the bars and all this stuff is at. And but this building is a little bit taller than the rest of the building. So it's probably like 3 or 4 stories. So the dude's going up. Now, everybody on the street is looking at him. All these crowds of people are like, oh, you can hear the awes, and they're like, oh my God, he's getting up there. They're cheering him and whatnot. Then a couple of people inside the building look out and see him climbing up. They're like, oh my goodness, they're looking out of the windows. Well, when the man gets to the top of the building, for some reason, the power line wasn't with the other power lines, but it was. It was like attached to the building. He grabbed the power line to get to the very top of the roof, and like he just was like zzz. So I don't know why, but everybody else on the street, they were like, not why they were making this noise. They were going, oh my goodness. They were all gasping. But for some reason I turned. I couldn't look. I was like, nope. So I turned, and when I turned back, he was just hitting the ground and he was just laying there. And like for some reason, they were like authorities and stuff. They were coming to come grab him. I don't know if they were like resuscitating. I don't know if they were like coming to pick him up and whatnot, or if they were like, it felt like discipline in a way, like they were coming to arrest him, but he was dead. So all of a sudden, there was like a bunch of kids around me on the street. I mean, there was like probably like 10 or 12 kids just walking together for some reason. And so then I turned around, I looked at them, and they were like crying and gasping. I said, no, 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 look at me, look at me, listen to me. Let's talk for a second. Don't worry about what just happened. And I started like telling them a story, and I woke up. It was weird. So um, I just want to put that out there. I don't know if anybody else has dreams. You can maybe talk about them in my comments. Give this comment a like, subscribe, if you like some of the messages that I'm putting out here. Um, so I wanted to take a second uh, today to talk about the power source. Um, so I see a lot of people coming after different religions, and a lot of times rightfully so, because religion has hurt a lot of people. So when I see people going after religion, um, I almost understand and or feel what's happening a lot of times. Some people do it for clout. They want to be on a train and they want to do what other people are doing. But a lot of times they may have a lot of followers, but they don't seem to get the success that religious videos get and that these religious people get. I'll give you an example. There's a guy that's doing something called Myth Busters, or I think it's like Myth Vision or something like that. He's a YouTuber. That dude is doing some really good work. He's finding a bunch of different scholars. He's not promoting any religion, and he's not being smug or asinine about it. He's a legitimate guy trying to get a message out there. And the type of information he's putting together is brilliant. Really enjoy it. Um, there's a couple other people that's trying to fight a lot of this atrocity. But a lot of times I'm seeing apologetics, or I'm seeing them battling another faction in religion. And maybe that religion hurt them, so I'm not here to condemn that. But here's why I want to talk about the power source. A lot of people don't understand why this institution is so powerful, why it's gaining so much notoriety. So I'm going to explain a little bit, like Christianity and Islam. So during a time where we were not around, the Middle Ages, around between 0 to 2,000 years ago, people were having missionaries and extremists spread around different religions. There's a good documentary on YouTube. It's actually pretty ironic in its entirety. But the thing is, it's called Church History 0 AD to present. And it's a historical timeline. Every single sect, creed, and all this different stuff dealing with the entirety of the Romans and the Roman Catholic Church. The irony comes in because they are pro-Catholic, I believe. They're constantly praising the victories that these Catholics and popes are having. Okay, so the power source. In this day and age, what you have is you have the same institution that's spreading a message because of the power they possess. It's a paradox. They possess this power because they're able to program as many people as possible. And then with that programming, they can then manipulate you in any way they need to. So, the power source, right? The source of all of this foolery. If you have a bunch of different humans, maybe 50 humans in a room, and these humans are not religious whatsoever. They don't really believe in religion, but they're not hardcore atheists. I believe atheism comes from being around or exposed to a religion and then being turned off to that religion. I honestly believe that's where atheism comes from. Because if there was no religion, atheism wouldn't exist. It would exist, but we wouldn't have a term for it. It just would be natural. So if you go and then teach those people anything, whatever you teach them, whatever you put in their ears, whatever you show them with their eyes, it is going to later remind them in everyday life. We call it memory. They will then have memories of that situation and then be swayed to do something based on the information that they learned. So, a bunch of children, right? We say children are innocent. They're going off of their basic instincts. They don't have a lot of knowledge, and so they're just basically reacting to external stimuli a lot of times based on the knowledge that they possess. So if you don't teach a child about any God, devil, demons, angels, none of those things will not influence him in everyday life. The reason this source is so powerful is because the money they possess in this day and age. So, the power source. How is the power source doing a figure 8 to confuse and control people? And what is an 8 but the infinity symbol? So imagine back in the day, it was fear and terror. You and your whole village would have been burned alive. If you watch this documentary, you'll see what I mean. I believe they killed 60,000 people in one village one time, or town. I believe it would be a town then. And all this information is readily available. You're afraid to go find it though, because I see the same thing you do, but possibly we see it differently. The lightning strikes. The one moment you're staring at something, watching TV, and then the next moment, because of a thought, you're burning in hell and you can see the actual hellfire. When I say see the actual hellfire, I'm not talking about physical things in the physical world. If you research what the word reality means, reality is a base point. It is an extension of the word real. It is what is actually happening with the stimuli we receive, whether it be from sound waves, photons, or physical objects interacting with our nerves. You oftentimes are terrified when you think certain things. Every single person on the planet is affected by this if they are real. If you are not affected by this, then you have nothing to worry about. And I shouldn't affect you with what I say. So, if a man knows nothing about the Bible, but then the media or other human beings, workers in the kingdom, come and inform me that if I do A, B, and C, I am transgressing an entity and will be punished for it. Now, I then go and learn and learn and learn. I'm going to talk about the Bible real quick. You guys possibly heard me bring this up before. Do not eat of the knowledge of good and evil. Eat of the tree of life, right? So if you're reading the Bible, here's what's supposed to actually happen. And I know this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion. I'm sorry. Based on the information I possess, technically you're supposed to read the first creation story, right? And when you read that, it's all love, good, rest. Well, then when you get to the next creation story, which were two different stories put together, when you get to the second creation story, you're given a commandment. Do not eat of the knowledge of good and evil, eat of the tree of life. You are supposed to shut that book and now let the Spirit guide you. Because now you technically have all this good, everything's good, be fruitful, multiply, good. That's the knowledge that's in your heart. And then you're told to eat of the tree of life. So technically everything's supposed to be good and you're supposed to live life. But how you have been manipulated, before you even find that book, other people tell you about it. They give you the information about it. You see the televangelists. You see the door-to-door Jehovah's Witnesses. You possibly go to school and interact with friends whose parents are just so religious and ready to spread the word. And so the students spread this word. Now, let me go read this literature for myself. You go and read this book. Even worse off, a lot of people, what they do is walk into a church so that pastor can tell them what God wants them to do. So what's happening is you start to read this book and now you have 513 commandments. A lot of those commandments contradict each other. One commandment will have you stuck frozen on one of the days of the week. It is mind control. It is fear. That is why at the end, they put one of the prophets in there talking about peace and love. Because from the emergence of so the Bible has 4 parts in the Old Testament. I mean, you have the Torah, you have the Judges, Kings, Prophets. I'm sorry about that. Please be patient with me. Like and subscribe. So what happens is all these different men put their version of God. They put all this stuff together. And then when the prophets came, you have men spitting hellfire throughout the earth. I'm going to give you an anomaly or a paradox, whichever you'd like to call it, a fractal of a paradox. Because of that book, the Bible, I would never say that I am Jewish. I would never be involved with Judaism. Because even if you don't know not one single Jewish person, after you get done reading that book, your mindset is going to be to go annihilate a Jewish person. I am telling you it is. That book, from the prophets all the way down to John the Baptist, and then Jesus, the Roman pagan god that was created from John the Baptist's words, right? Because it was the Lord of hosts. case you guys are unaware, you guys keep looking for Hebrews and Jewish pastors to tell you all this other stuff. But if it's the Lord of hosts, he's inside of you too, and he should be guiding you too. The one thing they don't tell you. So, what I'm telling you is, these prophets set the land on fire. Fire everywhere. We'll call it the lake of fire. The whole earth is on fire with their words. This is all metaphors. They set the land on fire. Then a man named John the Baptist came with what? Water. He came with water and he extinguished the flames. Right? If you read the story of what happened to John the Baptist in these stories, the New Testament, right? Every single one of them are talking about this king who loved Yehohanan. That would have been his name. I'm trying to tell you guys, Yochanan the Dipper, or Yehohanan, whichever one you prefer. This man was loved. I mean loved. Even the king didn't want to execute this man. But this man's wife, who was extremely spiteful, and according to texts, his insane daughter, who was dancing half naked at a dinner party and was promised half a kingdom, right? That's how a lot of Pornhub videos start. So, basically what I'm saying is, I'm sorry, that would call me on spot. So, what I'm saying is, this man was preaching a message. Based on what I can perceive, what him and Moses was talking about something being on the inside, manifesting and existing. I will spread the word too. I am who I am, and I am an existing I exist. There are certain words in that book that help me survive just fine, really great. So I would not recommend nobody going to just go read that book. But if you are like a burning stick in the fire, how Yahshua said, because that's what it would be no Joshua. It would be Yahshua, according to Hebrew text. That's who Yahshua is. You're just a burning stick in the fire who was already involved in this burning madness. You were pulled out. Now use those words to help you live. Do not use them to burn other people. Be like John the Baptist. If you're going to talk on it, spread peace and love and forgiveness and extinguish the fire. So, what I believe happened is, what I can almost for certainly be sure what happened is, they found a man named Yehohanan in Jerusalem in the same exact spots who was probably preaching the same exact message, an enemy against Rome. What they did was they killed this man and took his message and turned it into a monotheistic man-God religion, right? A lot of people talk about Plato and all these other Greek philosophers and all this other stuff. This stuff about being spiritually aware has been around since Babylon and Egypt, but people have destroyed it, and even India, before the Aryans came down and demolished them and created all this heathenism. The spirit of being something more than just a violent animal has been around since the days of old. But mankind, because of rewards or because of anger or whatever feelings, taint this stuff. And then they end up manipulating people. So, the power source. What happens is, these people read all these commandments and words. Then they get down even further to the New Testament, right? Even more magician, pagan, magic, buffoonery. Because if I'm talking about Acts, I'm saying that the Holy Spirit in my brain or whatever comes down, or from my heart, and makes me speak in tongues or something, and then I understand another man. Now, if you do that right now, you're going to be looking at each other like a bunch of idiots, because you know it's not true. Even the man you guys call Jesus, the man God, who I'm pretty sure y'all took those words from John the Baptist, because he was the one fasting and eating from the wilderness, was he not? This is written about in real history. This is written about in Jewish texts. Go take the Talmud and all this other stuff. This is written by Josephus. This dude existed. They found his grave, his bones. But what are Christians doing? Jesus, magic. They know this stuff isn't real. They're getting on TV, touching people, healing people, and doing all this foolishness. The power source. They're getting millions and billions of dollars. So back then, whereas they had the money because they had the numbers and resources, or the power because the resources, now it's the money. Look at all these evangelists and Jehovah's Witnesses bailing shop, shutting down churches and factories and disappearing, charging for the watchmen now. Are you kidding me? Because it's always been about money. But now they can't get all these offerings and tithes because people are waking up. And now they got to go about it a different route. I'm being honest with the Pope. Oh, this dude's just hip now, right? He kicking it, saying people could do whatever. They talking about he the most coolest Pope. I will never glorify you, you fucking murderer. There's a trail of blood from over 3,000 years of this violence. There's going to be a Messiah, man, God, since the days of Nimrod religion. No man is going to come with any more power than other men other than the intelligence he possesses. The power source. So they're going to, even if you can find everything else that's corrupt, they're going to keep peddling the Bible. Other men are going to keep branching off this book, the Bible, creating a fractal, go look that word up, of biblical literature. If there is a God, he's inside of you. I am who I am, all of you. And depending on the words you receive is who you are. The power source. John the Baptist, Yochanan the Immerser. They murdered this man, took his story and turned it into a nightmare. The Revelation. That whole book is based on Greek. I believe the word is Greek apocalyptic magicianry. All that stuff is metaphorical. And if you really open your eyes and understand what it's talking about, it's basically talking about coming back and slaughtering the wicked and the Jewish people over and over and over, and Babylonians and Egyptians. And then just a whole bunch of open heads to put symbols and civilizations on, over and over and over. The closest thing I can find to whatever would be godliness is the basic stuff Moses said in them 10 Commandments, outside of murdering or stoning anybody, and then John the Baptist, Yochanan the Immerser. And I honestly believe them first 3 Johns are his words. Because it sounds just like most since the beginning. I am. And you guys keep talking about Elijah, Yahya. Yahya translates to I am I. So if you can hear me, and if you understand what I'm saying, basically somebody started something, maybe a human from a long time ago, the human spirit, started to realize it existed, started to step outside of the animal kingdom. Because even animals realize they exist. I mean, what are we really doing? We are walking on top of concepts. Our buildings, our towers are built out of concepts. When I think about the Tower of Babel now, I think about a conceptual tower full of unrealistic teachings everywhere. So back to the power source. The base reality of the situation is no matter how much you hate religion, everybody's going to have that inner voice that tells them what to do. Because what you don't realize is that you guys are looking at this body right now, but this body is just this brain. That is all it is. This brain up here has a whole bunch of tools to survive. This little bitty thing up here. It has a heart to pump blood everywhere else to the other organs. It has the lungs to send oxygen. The energy a lot of your cells get comes from the splitting of oxygen molecules and then the splitting of electrons even further from that basic molecule. The energy that's inside that atomic molecule. So the brain basically is a highly functioning organ. We call it the organ, but the brain is the self. The brain is. And all this, my eyes, my skin, my hair, everything around is a tool to tell you what my brain is doing right now. Does that make sense? The brain is manifesting higher levels of consciousness throughout time. And we need to understand that and turn our religion into words that program us in a way that isn't violent. Because the way to truly stop the power source is to cut the power line. You don't cut the power line by attacking God. I promise you, you don't. What you do is when you attack God, you're going to electrocute yourself is what you're doing, baby. To cut the power source, you go to the power plant and cut off the power. Well, how does any business shut down? You guys keep paying these lying, wicked, vicious men because first of all, I can't speak on other countries. Islamic countries, Jewish countries, countries where they have church control, that's Nazism. You guys, they're Nazis. I'm sorry. Because outside of the peace of the religion, there is now a regime that is forcing people to live a certain way. And a lot of times, they're the ones that's spreading these messages, these holy books. Because I don't understand why the world wants positivity, but the news won't show geniuses every day. They won't show people healing the world every day. They won't show positivity. These massive corporations won't show these geniuses in the African American community, rappers, philosophers, scientists. They're going to keep showing you these, my beehole brown. Sorry, I get infuriated and I laugh when I hear that line because I just don't know how to call it tug of war, I guess. Like, what does that even mean? There's some disgusting lyrics out here and they promote this stuff. Will Smith smacked another man at a live audience, right? And they let this man just sit through the whole thing. Like, yeah, told that N-word up, right? So conceptualize what I'm telling you and the concepts you are standing on. As I've told you before, if you read that book, the Bible, if you take anything you say in your heart and take away the word God and just use the lines now, that's what you're built on. So everybody out here keeps saying, God got to holy people. I'm God's holy people. You sound ridiculous. Because all humans are humans. So the power source, cut the money off, man. What are y'all doing? In America and these other free countries, the Pope, that man paid. These rappers, y'all are glorifying stupidity. These movie stars that are making movies with pure ignorance, paid. For what? What's wrong with positivity? They are putting us in an institute. Yeah, we got to pay taxes. That's one thing. But y'all are going and paying these churches and popes and holy people and watching their shows. Y'all know y'all not going to get healed. So what's really happening? Is this a computer system? Are y'all robots? Are y'all NPCs? It's the fear. So, I guess how do you go into the power plant when it's all surrounded by demons, right? And everybody's afraid of demons and hell and all this other stuff. So, if y'all honestly can't get hell out of your head, there's only one scripture I can describe and what's happening to y'all. Those who will be in prison will be in prison, and those who are going to die by the sword are going to die by the sword, I guess. If you cannot take control of who I am and figure out another way or something else to think about, then you need to reprogram yourself, because I guess you're thinking in terms of like spiritual, and you guys need to break down and understand our computers are based on us, so we should learn from our computers, if that makes sense. Reprogram yourself, find something else. If I were you, I would not go from one religion to another. I would try to, honestly, I guess apologetics has its positivities, because you have people that are willing to leave, but then you have people that are stuck and they need help. And so it's easier to break it down over time than just essentially cutting off the power source. So I'll describe this metaphor the best way I can. In order to cut off the power source, you have to slowly defeat each demon at a time. Defeating a demon doesn't mean it's never going to come back to your mind again. You're never going to see this thing again. Knowledge is for life. So your job is to overcome. Be an overcomer. He who stands with you is a mighty one who is always true. So stand up until 2 o'clock in the morning praying with all the lights off, with the candles on, with a bunch of posters around talking about God and Bibles everywhere. It may have caused a lot of unruly demons and problems with me sleeping. But songs like that and hymns like that helped me become whole again. Now, I did have a huge problem with sleepwalking, night terrors, and other different things. But over time, as my knowledge increased, that stuff was demolished. And now a lot of my fear has turned into positivity. I have not become cold and evil and murderous and all those other things that they like to throw at atheists. Well, where does morality come from if there's not a God? Well, you should go back 3,000 years ago and find out what was morality. Because I got to tell you, it didn't come from those religions. So, I believe morality comes from mathematics. Because in mathematics, when I say this, I'm not talking about 1 + 1 is 2 physically on. I'm talking in terms of mathematically increasing over time, becoming better. You can't just have an IQ of 0 to 1,000. Your IQ points as a civilization, as humanity, have to go up slowly over time, or you'll overload the system and you'll send too many volts at once and the transistor will blow. Okay, so hell came from Germanic paganism, Hele from Norse mythology, the Europeans, the Germanics, the Slavics. The word Hebrew, Judaism, Israel, came from Russia, from the Yiddish-speaking community. They tried to translate these old, they call them in their word, Hebrews. They tried to translate these texts, and now Hebrews exist, or Jewish people exist. They have no idea what that stuff said, and a lot of it has been translated through the Greek Bible. So you have like the Russians and the Germans, right? I don't believe the Russians necessarily believe in hell. They talk about heaven sometimes and stuff. The Yiddish community and Jewish, a lot of Jewish people don't even believe in that stuff anymore. So then you have the Roman Catholics. They definitely didn't have hell. They was like purgatory or something, or the middle space until God alleviated you. And you guys should like really watch 0 AD to present church history. I'm going to link it right here or whatever. And so I'm telling you guys, you should really pay attention and learn some things. And you have the Greeks, who actually basically even spread a lot of the stuff throughout the earth. They like mixed into a lot of Egyptian and Babylonian mythology, psychology, and what's the word I'm looking for? Philosophy. There we go. And they mixed it all together and started making a religion out of it. That's why sometimes I say they're like the leopard and the revelation. I just use it as a symbol. I don't believe in none of that stuff in terms of. Anyway, so then you have the Persians, a lot of Greeks and Persians, like there was like a lot of wars going on, and even the Persians mixed with a lot of Babylonian and Egyptian culture. So then that's when you have the emergence of like Talmuds, and when the Persians come about, like the Aramaic prophets, they had like the Torah, but then they added a lot of prophets to it. You know what I mean? So like I was saying earlier in the video, be like John the Baptist, man. If you can't read them, read them words. Wasn't nobody talking about hell and murderous and the only thing they're really talking about is loving your brothers and your sisters. That's what dudes talking about, love and peace and kindness. And I'm not sending you to John the Baptist to be like, oh, use water to baptize yourself. I'm telling you all this is symbolic. The prophets burnt up the land. This was written a long time ago in like prophecies that they were going to do this stuff. Then it was written in Revelation that they did this stuff. I believe the Revelation was written like after a lot of these prophets came, and then they were seeing what was going to happen later. Because all this beast and stuff, Rome was there, Greece was there already, all these nations were there already. So, and then with the beast, it's basically just speculating about Catholicism being created. You know what I mean? Anyways, so you're basically looking at a bunch of stuff being mixed together. And then this man coming to teach about peace and love, because religion was not about peace and love back then. I don't know why people keep lying, talking about since the beginning, Muslims, none of that stuff. You guys are liars. They were violent, cultic people. And over time, humans changed. So, Yehohanan the Immerser, it's even written that he was the greatest prophet of all, because based on what I see, he did start speaking love and peace and happiness. The other prophets was talking about you guys are going to be destroyed. And if you guys keep peddling the Bible, Jewish people are going to keep getting demolished and attacked over time in the Quran. So you guys should say, I am who I am, like meditate or something, go deep within, and then start to listen. When I say listen, don't go off and say, I'm hearing voices and that's your brain. It's your imagination. When you sit down and actually listen to yourself, you can hear your brain working, or hear what's working inside, so to speak. A lot of times, a lot of people can't. And so if you don't have that problem and you have that peace of mind, you should then go teach peaceful things. You should come up with peaceful things. Help. That's where I'm going to go. You don't have to be a major person to help people around you, because then those people around you are going to learn and teach people around them.